Right. So, as part of artificial intelligence and machine learning point of view, we have already discussed about the basics of artificial intelligence and machine learning in the last couple of sessions. At the same time, even I have discussed about the architecture part. So, artificial intelligence and machine learning architecture even discussed. Now, today I'm going to discuss about what is that are we going to understand from the machine learning, artificial intelligence or machine learning point of view, being into the developmental perspective. So that what is that you are going to learn and what kind of skill sets are the responsibilities one should perform as in machine learning engineer is something which I'm going to discuss in today's session. Of course, fortunate enough, as far as the practical implementation is concerned, there are some open source tools are available online, and even some trial versions will be also available. So that whatever the practical implementation is needed, so that I'm going to explain you in the coming days later on that. Now, from the skill sets point of view, from the learning point of view, as well as the work level point of view, being into machine learning engineering. So first thing is about having some experience over model development, because when you are going to develop any kind of machine learning model, let me give you an example from the healthcare point of view, because along with this, if you have some healthcare knowledge or any other domain knowledge will also be helpful. This, of course, that is of your interest, right? So if you want to learn addition to the machine learning, this training program, if you want to learn healthcare, you can learn. That is of your choice, because machine learning, healthcare with artificial intelligence and machine learning is the right combination nowadays. This is all I can suggest you. At the same time, I could see some people who are already from the healthcare background, so that you don't require to learn anything because you have healthcare knowledge, so that it is not needed. So that when you are planning your profile, you can build your profile in such a way as you have already an healthcare experience. You can add this artificial intelligence or machine learning skill set, and you can apply for jobs. People who are coming from the programming part, this is first phase. Second phase, some people I could say who are exclusive from the programming side, either from the Python or Java programming, I could see. People who are coming from the programming side, I'll advise you to have some knowledge over the healthcare domain, because as I mentioned earlier, right? So when it comes to the artificial intelligence and machine learning implementation, in every domain we are implementing, nothing wrong in it. Because if you have your own experience in your respective domain fields, then it is a different thing altogether. Or else you can enroll for healthcare training of mine, so that it's an additional advantage, which is optional. Okay, leave it. Now, when it comes to the implementation part, the first one about the model development is what something which we must be good with. Means we should able in a position to design and develop different machine learning models. For example, as an example of healthcare application we are taking, what are the healthcare solutions you are going to develop? For every healthcare solution, there are different models that are required for us to create. So when we are creating different models, especially from the machine learning point of view, designing the model using there are different tools now and then available, as in the beginning I told you, because we need to design and develop, implement machine learning models and all. So for that, it's always important to understand about the programming basics, because if you want to develop something, you must be having some good programming skills. Of course, anyway, programming. I could see even some people were from programming. You don't require, but a person having experience from the functional side you're coming, you need to learn that programming part, basics of it. So because programming, right? So what are the code are we going to write? So what are the different algorithms are we going to use? This sort of knowledge is required. So because when there is any kind of implementation of machine learning model we are implementing, there are different business needs from organization to organization. This is all something will be varied. So that is something which we need to understand, right? So what are the different business needs we have? At the same time, learning different models of implementation when you want to be performed is something we do. But before I'm getting into the next point, when it comes to the data processing point, let me give you the couple of job opportunities as a machine learning individual one must be good with, right? So there are a couple of job opportunities I can say, two job opportunities, majorly to initiate with. The first one about the business analyst job opportunity from the AA perspective, AA and ML perspective. This is one thing. Or else you can become AI and ML engineer, okay, machine learning engineering. And this is completely a coding developmental side. Some people who are from the programming side, you can become artificial intelligence and machine learning engineer. But people who are having experience from the functional side, if you want to move on your career towards machine learning, or if you are a business analyst side, so that you can opt for business analyst in artificial intelligence and machine learning. So for them, this is required. So understanding about the tailoring of the business needs, right? So this is something which is essentially required, especially for people who are working at who wants to work as a business analyst. Because while I'm a learning, I'm, as I mentioned in the beginning, I've designed already this course into two different parts. One is machine learning, artificial intelligence. For the business analyst point of view, that is one program. As I already mentioned you, there are some people, so you will be attending as separate. And for engineering people, that is as separate, because engineering people majorly focusing on the designing, development, implementation of it. This is what something which is useful for engineering people, means developmental people. But for business analysts, understanding the requirements, retailing the business needs is what something as a BA we do. So this is what something you will be learning. So this is point number one. Point number two, second is about the data processing. I hope you got the point, right? So the second one about the data processing part. Now, implementing the models as well as initiating the models and all require large scale of data. If you have taken some healthcare data, as an example of healthcare point of view, I'm saying as a domain. So there are a lot of data is involved, like patient data will be involved in it because large scale of patients are involved. There will be more patient data will be available. Whoever is coming for the treatment to the doctor, right? So all these will be there. At the same time, data relating to the claim related stuff. What are the claim processing, claim adjudication we do? So even claim processing and claim adjudication, that data, claims data will also be there. So data processing is also one of the key and important element, one to be done. Means how to collect the data, how to clean the data. At the same time, how this processing of large scale data sets. I'm talking about the data, customer data. I'm talking about the patient's data, etc. Or the claim processing data and all that. So how this can be cleaned, right? So how can this pre-process the large scale data sets? This is also one of the key and important element, one to be done. This is comes under the data analysis point of view, because some organizations, what they say, business analyst, I want some having some knowledge over the data analysis part. Some people say that. That is one for senior profiles, I can say, not for the initial level. But majorly from the developmental side, yes. Even if you are applying job opportunities as a beginner level also, you need to have some knowledge over the data processing, etc. So, for that, of course, we have SQL, NoSQL, right? At the same time, if you want to create any kind of dashboards and all, of course, we have some Power BI, etc. We use it, but we don't need it. But how to clean the data and all. So we have different ETL tools available, because if you want to extract the data, or else if you want to transform the data, load data and all, data processing, for that it is required. So data processing can be done. So this is the second thing which one should be good with. Next, we need to model train and optimization, because we need to train and test and tune the models that is required. So because once the design, development, implementation of machine learning model is done, right? So because this is the first thing we done. So what we have to do once the development and implementation done, we have to test the application. This is where some kind of testing knowledge is required. So either it can be testing knowledge. If you are a business analyst, you need to have a manual testing knowledge, not the automation side, manual testing knowledge, like preparing some test cases before the test scenarios, test scripts, right? So at the same time, finally, user acceptance testing. This is something which we will be learning over here. But whereas when, as from the developmental side, when you want to learn this, it's always important. If you have some knowledge over the automation testing is more preferable even, because a lot of testing tools are we using now and then, like Selenium, right? So different, especially when we are working on Java projects and all, Selenium, everything will be used, you know that. So this knowledge is required. So if you are a business analyst role, you need to be more experienced towards the manual testing side. If you are a engineering, means developmental side, if you are moving on, so you need to have some knowledge over the automation testing, because you need to test the models, right? So you need to test the models, right? So you need to see the performance of the model. At the same time, you need to optimize the models for efficiency and scalability. This is also required. Because if you want to know about the efficiency and scalability of the application, this is where non-functional requirements come into picture. You know that, non-functional requirements. These non-functional requirements will be done by the business analyst. So in this part, so optimize the business models for improving the efficiency and scalability, non-functional requirements being gathered by the BA. So now how this can be optimized, everything will be taken care of by the developmental team. Okay, this is also one of the key skill set you will be learning and you must be good with. Again, do remember I'm saying from a BA perspective, even for the developmental perspective, right? So from the engineer perspective, I am saying. So whichever the profile you want to move on, you can. I'll split the batch, right? So I'm splitting the batch, right? So you will be joined there, and you'll be. But when you are trying to understand about the learning part, skill set part, and all, it is everything common for both the people. That is the point. Next, deployment, right? So deployment is also, because machine learning models are implemented. Once the implementation done, we have to deploy it. There are different deployment standards, methods are there, which we want to deploy it, right? So you need to deploy it. So when you are deploying, this is where something which we need to understand between two different kind of systems. Earlier, we used to have on-premise solutions. On-premise means, of course, even nowadays, most of the organizations even follow on-premise, because you have your own data centers wherein you will manage. You have your workstations, you have your own data centers, will be managed by the organizations. Some organizations now and then we are moving towards cloud environment. Cloud deployment means if you want to deploy this machine learning models, there are different tools we have to use now and then. That's the reason why understanding the cloud environment, understanding the deployment from the cloud knowledge, having the cloud knowledge is also required. Either normally, I usually go for AWS. This is one thing. And some basic knowledge about Azure also I'm giving you. So because any one cloud knowledge is enough to you, right? So either it can be AWS or Azure. Any one cloud knowledge is enough to you. So whichever the cloud knowledge is uh, something easy for you, right? So or else if you have that knowledge, then it's fine. But otherwise, having a cloud knowledge, either it can be AWS or Azure, is always helpful to you. It is always required and mandatory, because if you want to deploy the machine learning models, when you are developing now and then our cloud application, so deploying the application is required. So machine learning models are required. So for that, generally this deployment is needed. So cloud deployments is something which normally we do. This is one of the key and important element one should understand. Next, this is about the research part, because the research part, this is something for advanced level, because this is not something required for you in the now and then, because I don't recommend you now, because as in when you are in the stage of learning, right? So and you are planning your career towards machine learning side. I don't prefer you to go for research and innovation at this level, because deep understanding over a period of working on machine learning models is required. So if you want to work on some research and innovation, so if you have any, if you that sort of mindset, because why I mentioned this point to you, because you could ask me one thing, then Raj, why you have mentioned this point. The reason is that sort of knowledge is always, because you are making career of machine learning uh, as a professional career, right? So which is for the long run. So what must be the long run understanding or the mindset one has to prepare? For that point, I have given you, right? So you need to have some research or innovation mindset is something which you need to have. Okay, that is something required. So this I can say it's an optional thing now and then for uh, beginner level, not for the advanced level people, all that. Next is about the collaboration part. So collaboration is also required, because when we are working as a business analyst, we will be working closely with some cross-functional teams and all. Either it can be data scientist people or someone. If you are a developmental engineer, like if you are a software engineer, machine learning engineering side, you will be working with the product management team, cross-functional teams also. That collaboration, understanding over the collaboration, because it's a teamwork end of the day, right? So you required some business analysts to gather the requirements. At the same time, you required some development team to develop, analyze, design, and develop and implement machine learning models. At the same time, you required some cross-functional teams who should provide you the support for the developmental of the model. You may be required some product managers, because assume that we are developing some machine learning model. So there are some product managers required for you, who will be guiding you. So what are their product goals and visions which they wants to be achieved. So based on that, the application or the product what we are developing will have a value end of the day. So this is what generally we call it as collaboration point. Next, documentation. This is something which, being into business analysis, you need to, because you need to have a documental experience creating some documents, like, right? So technical point of view, high level designs and low level design documentation. Designs will be done by the design team, but document it, right? So if you want to create any comprehensive documentation or any kind of models or processes, so the documentation knowledge required for a business analyst role, not majorly for engineering role. If you have that knowledge, of course, fine, right? So that's an additional skill set you will be acquiring. If you have that acquiring of additional skill set, then it is more easy for you to get into, right? So because this is an additional skill set, right? So having experience in creating some documentation will give you an additional edge when you are applying for jobs. Uh, that is all. I think some of the people are already I see, right? So some people are already attended for some interviews, and of course, unfortunately, they didn't go through. I think because offline they have discussed with me, so they have undergone some training, so they couldn't succeed. So that's the reason they came to me for that. So for them, I'm saying, okay, because while you are learning, it's always important to have some documentation skills. This is also one of the key and important element you need to understand. And last but not least, what are the technologies that I am going to learn or that I'm good with, right? So normally for these are frameworks, I can say, like TensorFlow and all, right? So these framework knowledge is required for you. At the same time, you need to have a knowledge over PyTorch, because people who are coming from Python programming background or Java Python, Java programming background and all, this PyTorch is required. So if you are from the developmental background, I'm saying this. Otherwise, if you are from the business analysis background, I would prefer you to have a knowledge over the TensorFlow, understanding of TensorFlow, how it functions. At the same time, cloud platform, any one Azure or AWS or any other cloud platform, that knowledge is required. Not the programming knowledge as a BA. But people, I could see some people from the engineering side, if you want, yes, you need to have knowledge over Python. If you have knowledge over Python, then it's fine. Because Python knowledge is required. Python knowledge is mandatory. or else if it can be Java programming or it can be R programming, because statistical testing, right? So statistical tools, statistical testing, for that we are using an R programming. R programming is an open source tool. You can learn it. That's not an issue. But people who are coming from Java, then not required. Learning some basics of Python and followed by this PyTorch if you learn, and you can move on. And if you want to have knowledge over R programming and all, R programming can also learn, because that's an open source tool, as I told you. Next is TensorFlow. These are all the frameworks which are required for you. Next, cloud platform, because when we have designed, analyzed, design, build, and implement a project, implement a machine learning models, that has to be deployed. For that, cloud deployments is integrating with existing systems, etc. So that understanding over Azure or AWS, because I prefer AWS first, because AWS has an advantage. Even we have infrastructure services, right? So, yeah, of course, Azure or anything, right? So anything, anybody, but AWS is something which I focus more on. Next one about Azure as per the need, etc. Right? So this is what something which, as far as artificial intelligence and machine learning is concerned, if you are applying as a business analyst, or if you are learning as a artificial intelligence and machine learning from the engineering point of view, one must be good with. So if you are a business analyst, you're learning from the BA point of view. If you are engineering, you will be learning from the developmental point of view. This is all about this. And coming to the learning, as I told you, because these are the tools, as I already mentioned, these are most of the tools were available online, open source, so that practically having some knowledge is not a big thing, right? So that can be done. But many of the job opportunities I could see out of my experience, if I am not wrong, because I'm in this industry for a very long time, for more than 23 years. 23 years is my career, you know that. What I see, machine learning, artificial intelligence is more becoming mandatory for multiple domains. Either it can be supply chain, e-commerce, it can be investment banking side, all that. And moreover, majority you can see healthcare side. Also, we see many requirements are coming. So I would prefer, right? So that I prefer that is of your interest. Whoever wants to learn healthcare domain knowledge, if you don't have, so if you learn, it's an additional advantage, which is optional. I don't say it is mandatory. That is an individual interest one should be learning. So this is all about the session today. Tomorrow I'm going to discuss about the first part, right? So first I'm going to discuss about analysis designing. So this part I'm going to okay, how to generally the design the. So before designing, how the requirements will be gathered, right? So that part I'm going to discuss tomorrow. Okay. So we'll meet tomorrow. See you. Bye.